blastmusic247.com. We're changing the industry one artist at a time.
Welcome to Moments with Myra, a space of meaningful conversations, reflection, and healing. I'm your host, Myra, and in honor of Women's History Month, we are highlighting women who are doing the powerful work of transformation within themselves and their communities. Today, I'm joined by Tracy Person, owner of Southern Alchemy Wellness. I'm so excited to be here with her. Tracy's work is rooted in the belief that healing is intentional, personal, and deeply connected to the mind, body, and spirit. Her journey is one of turning life experiences into purpose and creating spaces where people feel safe to reconnect with themselves. This conversation is about the willingness, womanhood, and the alchemy, yes, that happens when we choose to heal. Let's get into this moment. Thank you so much, Tracy, for being here. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Myra. This has been a while coming. I'm
Yes,
excited.
it's been. I'm glad that we were finally able to get connected with each other. So now I know who you are. For those who may be meeting you for the first time, tell us who you are and what Southern Alchemy Wellness represents.
Wow. So let me be succinct. Um, I am a mother. I am a daughter, even though my parents are no longer on this physical plane. I am very much rooted in my daughterhood. I am a teacher, an educator, a spiritualist, and a healer, and a doula. And how that work looks is that I am a culinary folk herbalist, and I use my work with food justice, food acquisition, um, health and wellness education to support our community in healthy lifestyles. I am about healthy pregnancies, creating healthy microbiomes in mothers and infants. I am about teaching people about how best to be physically healthy, emotionally healthy, and spiritually healthy.
I love that. So, what was happening in your life when the idea for Southern Alchemy Wellness first came to you?
Oh, my mother was transitioning.
Okay.
And I did start this off by saying I'm a daughter. And I'm the daughter of very intentional and supportive parents. My parents were each other's best friend. And I come from a legacy of married people. And I think that it's a privilege to be able to say that in our community. Both of my grandparents were married. They were married until death did them part. They come from married people. So I think that that in and of itself is a real legacy. And then, my mother was the oldest of 12 in Tampa, Florida, and she had come to New York for an adventure. She didn't quite know what she wanted to do, but she knew after Clark Atlanta that she did not want to go home. She met my father there, and they began their legacy of educating the community and upholding the community. And so those were big shoulders to stand on. I grew up in that house with my brother, always being supportive of the community. I was just basically in everything that they created to support the Black community. And so inheriting that from them, and watching my mother achieve and my father achieve all the things that they had achieved, when it came time for me to support her through her illness, because she battled cancer and she made it into her 80s and did all the things that she wanted to do, I knew that I was going to move back to her hometown because the majority of my family is here. And I knew that I was taking my father with me because he was battling dementia at that point in time, and he was in his 90s. And it was time for me at 59 to go to the next chapter of what I wanted to do. At that time, I was a professor in higher ed, and I was kind of making the transition out. This was literally the middle of COVID. And I was thinking, I need to stop making herbalism my side chick and have it be like the foremost thing of what I do. I'm also a 30-year practitioner of spiritual arts. And so for me, all of that kind of came full circle together in Southern Alchemy. And so that was my idea, that I would finally come out of the shadows, come out of the academy, and really kind of make this holistic wellness piece happen.
I love that when you said come out of the shadows. You and I have spoke before, so I know all about that, and being obedient to your gifts. So it makes me so happy. And also too, alchemy is such a powerful word anyway, but
Mm.
to know the full story behind it gives it even more power, in my opinion. So
Mhm.
kudos to you for being obedient. I think this is a beautiful way for you to honor your parents. I
Oh,
feel mom and dad both are right there with you every step of the way. And so it's a beautiful legacy that you're creating for your kids as well. Now, like we were saying, the word alchemy is powerful. What does it mean to you in the context of healing and wellness?
in the context of healing and wellness, and I'm very much about holism, bringing things together that people think don't necessarily work together.
Mhm,
Um, for instance, I'm an academic, but I'm also a hoodoo spiritualist.
mhm.
When you can take those two things and you can mesh them together, that and make them work, that is the alchemy. Or, you know, I'm a folk herbalist, but I'm also a former chef. And so everything for me is food. But for that food to be healthy and available and nourishing and supportive, that's the alchemy, right?
Mhm.
Because, people who think about culinary, they're like, oh, so we make fancy things, or we make fattening things, or you know, we can make things that are supportive and nourishing and still healthy.
Yes,
So the alchemy for me is always about weaving together these pieces that we think are disparate, right? Things that we think, does that really go together? Should that really be on the same plate? And then making something new and amazing and beautiful out of it.
I love that. And it reminds me of when we think about our ancestors, our grandparents, our moms, and them growing up, and how a good majority of them planted their own foods, and
Mhm.
how a true believer that God gives us everything that we need. All of
Yeah.
this added stuff, we don't need all the extra stuff. So I'm glad that you are working to make that not only more accessible to everybody, but to give everybody the knowledge,
Yeah.
because sometimes all we need is just the knowledge. This is how you can grow this, and this is how you can do that. Because
Mhm.
it's so important, especially now in this time, that we start becoming a little bit more self-sufficient. So
Mhm.
I love that you combine the two. And then hoodoo, we're gonna have to have another show about that, because I got some
Yeah.
good stuff for us to that we can get into. So I love it. I love everything that you're doing and how everything just flows. And to me, Southern Alchemy is us. It's your parents. It's
Mhm.
my parents, grandparents, anybody below the Mason-Dixon line that's African American. That
Yes.
describes us, because just in ourselves, we are truly a melting pot. So I really, really love that name and how it flows. Now, I know that you were dealing with your dad with dementia, and then with mom having cancer. Was
Mhm.
there another personal healing moment or season that pushed you towards wellness work, or were those two things the key factors or the key things that made you get into it more?
So here's the funny thing. So a lot of people don't really understand about hoodoo. They think of it as a religion. If
Mhm.
you are Christianized, you think of it as, oh my God, it's evil and we can't. But so much of hoodoo practice comes out of how we do Christianity. And as people of the diaspora, how we do Christianity can never be the way it was sold to us, right? So a lot of us have been raised in the church, but we also dreamers. We also have visions. We also have discernment. Many of us can walk into a room and pick up energy.
Mhm.
A lot of us understand that prayer is an active thing, that we're not passively sitting and begging, but many of us may be moving energy. So here's the funny thing that happened to me. And I needed to give that context to let you know why, when it happened, it meant what it meant to me. So the beginning of 2020, I was teaching at Long Island University College, and it was the best teaching experience that I had ever had. I was making a lot of impact. So basically, I was a high school teacher for 15 years. And so when I moved to higher ed, I was a professor of pedagogy. So I was teaching people how to teach, like the art and science of teaching. And so I had come from a really toxic universe, an Ivy League university. Shouldn't what the name was, but it was very toxic, and they weren't letting me do what I wanted to do, and they were telling me that I was doing it all wrong and that I wasn't successful. But the students were loving me, and they were taking my data that I was creating, and they went to Europe and didn't take me, but they took my data and they presented on it, which was wild. So I went to LIU, and I'm left alone to do whatever I want. And I'm about to take a group of students on a trip to Germany because we were looking at special education there, when all of a sudden we get this announcement that they're going to scrap my whole program. And it wasn't literally my program, it was just the program that I was in. And
Yeah.
they were scrapping it because it was urban ed. And my belief is that there were so many people of color
Excuse
in
me.
the program, you're excused, that they really wanted people who could pay to go to school, because it didn't equal dollars because you were able to come through that program because of New York City paying for you. And so we were like, listen, you can't scrap the program because we're in the city. Any kid who's in the city is an urban learner, but they weren't hearing me. So I got into my prayers and my rituals. I was like, this is not going to happen because I'm on my magical flow.
Yes.
So my astrologist, I would go at the beginning of each year and have her do a reading. And as she does the reading, she tells me I'm going to lose my job. And I was like, oh, hell no, I'm not going to lose my job because I got all in my magic and I did this and I did that. And she said, okay, you can do what you want, but I just see you're losing this job. And it's not going to go in the worst way that you think it is, because they're going to have to keep you in the ways that maybe they're not even prepared to. But you won't be, it won't look like what you want it to look like you're not going away, you're not doing all this stuff. And this is before COVID.
Wow.
COVID hit. And just before COVID had hit, I enrolled in an herbalism program. So, yes, I lost my job,
Mhm.
but it didn't happen in the way that they wanted it to, because they were trying to scrap the program, but they still had some people in play that they thought that they would farm out to like a different campus, but they couldn't because COVID came, shut everything down, and we had to teach online. In my program, there were only 2 professors that knew how to teach effectively online. I was one of them. So I didn't get to go in, and I didn't get to keep my office because I loved my office, but they had to keep me in the program because they had to get these people through. So I still had employment. But because I didn't have to go in and do faculty meetings or anything like that, because they had effectively scrapped that program,
Mhm.
now free to support my mother through this cancer.
Wow.
And that allowed me to think about what my next phase was. And I wasn't allowed to go to the program, the herbal program, the way I wanted to because everything was shut down. So that forced her to innovate and put everything online. So I was able to do that. And that gave me the idea that all of my work didn't have to be in person. I did get a chance to go and do a residency with her because in 2021 they did open some things up. But by that point in time, when the end of 2021 happened, my mother transitioned, and I was like, I don't have to stay here. I can leave and I can teach online and I can open up a brick and mortar and I can do all these things. Now the brick and mortar is now closed, so that's another story, and I really love that story too. But that's like a different level of transition. But that's what kind of brought me to this place of, change and understanding that I could, transition.
But you know what's so beautiful about that? And I've had a similar situation happen to me. There's truly, truly beauty in ashes, you know?
Hmm.
You are thinking, oh my gosh, what's going on? What's going on? And it freed you up to have the time to spend with your mom and
Yes.
looking at your path and seeing how that's going to change. So it was such a beautiful transition, not only for mom ending her fight, but also for you for the next chapter of your life. And I feel like that she just kind of transitioned and flowed right on with you and
She
kind of
did.
guided you in that direction that you needed to go, that maybe you would have been a little bit slower doing, you know?
Yeah, I would still be in New York probably, hating it and wondering because I inherited the house that I'm sitting in now. I would
Mm,
have sold this
see,
and it would have been ripe for the selling because that was at the time when New Yorkers were running down to Florida
yeah.
because they had us locked down so brutally in New York. And she wanted two funerals.
Hmm.
She was such a support mover, shaker, mentor in Brooklyn that they capped her funeral at 100 during COVID,
Hmm.
and people were fighting to get in. But her family was all down here. I told you how many brothers and sisters she has.
Yes.
So she wanted to be buried down here. So I had her Brooklyn funeral, and then I turned right back around and had a Florida funeral. And I was sitting in the house, and my aunt said, "What are you going to do with this house?" And I said, "Well, I think I'm going to sell it." And she said, "Don't make decisions in haste."
Yes.
She said, "Think about it." And I looked at my husband, and he's an educator also. So he was teaching online. My daughter was going to school online, my youngest, hating every minute of it. She had gone into a deep depression because she had never set foot in high school. She had graduated middle school during COVID, locked down, had like a drive by graduation,
Yeah.
where they honked horns and couldn't like be in each other's faces, and then entered high school and never went into the classroom. She, that's a whole nother thing, in terms of dealing with her holism and her wellness and the
Hmm.
things that I did to keep her okay. But uppermost on my mind was, as crazy as the politics are in Florida, they were going to school. And there were a lot of people that were saying, oh, the kids need to be out too. They need to be locked down. They don't know what that was like.
Yeah.
Kids have to socialize. They have to see each other. And
Mhm.
so I said to my husband, I said, look, we're down here and it's open. We need to move down here. My baby got to go to school. And he was like, I don't want to leave New York. He's from Kansas, so he moved to New York for the excitement.
Mhm.
And my daughter, I don't know how she did this, but she got a boyfriend, even though she couldn't go to school. Like they were looking at each other online in the
Uh-huh.
classroom, and they started like messaging each other. And she was like, I don't want to lose my boyfriend. And I was like, girl, you need to go to school. We don't move. And so that's, they said no. And then when we went back to New York, they were firing people that didn't take the shot.
Mhm.
And my husband, they mandated that everybody could now go to school. And they told my daughter she would have to take the shot if she went to school, and there was no longevity studies. I was like, she don't even know what that would do to her body. What if she can't like procreate or whatever
Yeah.
because they gave her this shot? And then my husband didn't want to take it because I didn't want to take it, and I didn't have to because I wasn't going in. I was online. So when they walked him out of school, we knew that that was it. I was like, see, I told you, I had the premonition. I told you we need to move. So we basically packed up a U-Haul and fled in the night in October, like thieves in the night, girl. Like thieves in the night. We packed up a U-Haul, and I sold my house after from Florida.
But what still, even with all the ups and downs and everything that was going on with COVID, though, Tracy, what a beautiful story. Talking about a full circle moment. I mean, and just from you being obedient, just from you saying, "No, I'm losing my job. I don't know what you're talking about," to this beautiful story that you've created and that you're now living. I mean, I tell you, the universe, honey, never ceases to amaze me by the things that are put in our paths and the way that we move and we flow. It's definitely ebbs and flows, and I love it. I love it.
This is not a popular take because so many suffered and people died during COVID.
Yeah.
COVID was not all bad.
Not at all. No, I agree with you 100%. My mom and I were talking about that today because, like I told you, we're preparing for more snow here in North Carolina. And I told her today, I said, Mama, I think that this is just kind of like COVID, because everybody's so ready to get out and about. And I said, sometimes we just need to take a pause and have some patience and just, have peace. I'm good in my house. I got 1,001 things to do. I can work from home. I love it. I know that people need to socialize or whatever, but I'm good, So I think that, like you said, COVID was not outside of the deaths and the illnesses and stuff, because I lost family members to COVID. Outside of that, to me, I think it was a necessary thing. Mother Earth had to reset herself.
And Mother Earth did. Like, if you live in a city like New York, which is very dirty and very crowded, to see birds come back that had not been around in like maybe decade, like there were robins around, there were blue jays around, the sky was clear.
You could see the sky, yeah.
In New York, and the sky is clear. I have to say I was living my best life during COVID. I was waking up in the morning, making everybody's food, planning my classes for the evening because they were evening classes. I was teaching teachers who were teaching by day, like they were doing their student teaching by day, and then they would come to pedagogy classes at night to talk about like adolescence and how to access community and how to structure curriculum and stuff like that. So they were basically learning on the job. And I really had pivoted into teacher wellness at that point in time. I was like, are you eating? Are you making separate time away from your children because you're stuck in the house with your children trying to wear two hats at once? They're learning and you're teaching, and then you have to come to class. And I would give them like bio break moments so that they could go and get their food and they could eat online. And I was creating like chat spaces for them to talk about how stressful it was. So I was already pivoting and I didn't even know.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. All of the actions and all of the intentions that you had, you were already ahead of your time and had no clue.
I didn't have a clue.
So beautiful, honey, about you being obedient the way you were and doing things the way that you did it.
Obedience is hard.
Honey.
I would have never even been a teacher if it wasn't for obedience. People have been telling me since I was like in high school that I should be a teacher because I would always babysit like the neighborhood children. I was in Jack and Jill, if anybody knows what Jack and Jill of America is. And all the little kids would always love me. And when I was a teenager, they would be like, Tracy, and they would say, you should be a teacher. I was a gymnast and I would go to the Y. And at first I would volunteer my time and then they paid me. Um,
Mhm.
and when they would say that I should be a teacher, I would be like, oh, no way. My parents do that. I'm never do. I want to be famous. I want to be an actress. And I literally went to a theater art school, graduated with Marissa Tomei, Oscar winner Marissa Tomei. We were in plays together. If anybody loves rap, MCA from the Beastie Boys, Adam Yauch was a friend of mine. Like that's what I wanted to do. And I did work for PBS. I worked for Dance in America, which I told you I was a gymnast and I was a dancer. Now my daughter's a dancer, so I'm like, yay. Uh, I worked on the Cosby Show as wardrobe. I really wanted that life. And then when I saw that life, I was like, oh, I don't really want this. Is this what I got to do to get that?
Yeah.
I don't want that. And so I shifted into culinary, and I was a really like serious chef at some of the best restaurants in Manhattan, at a celebrity restaurant. So there was a lot of celebrities that I made food for. My ex-boss is Jeffrey Zakarian, who's on Chopped and Top Chef Masters and all of that. And I
Yeah.
was serious about that. And Spirit was always taking me in another direction. And a Puerto Rican woman who was just temping, came and she read my palm. And I didn't even, she was like, can I read your palm? I was like, no. She was like, oh, you don't believe? And I said, no, I do. I just like, who are you?
Yeah.
And she said, well, I feel moved to give you a message. And her spirit was kind and nice. And she told me, she said, the man you're married to right now is not your soulmate. Girl, I'm divorced from that man. And I had just married him. And I had a premonition on my wedding day that we were not going to be together. And I cried all the way down the aisle because I saw it and I didn't want to believe my spirit.
Mhm.
And I stayed married to him for like 8 years, but I knew after year 3 that it wasn't it. I told her that she said she saw 3 children. I said, nope, I will myself to have 2, and I'm only having boys. She said, well, I see a girl. I'm like, because me and my mom used to like get into it. And I told you I kind of death douled her out. We got so close in my adulthood,
Yeah.
like so close. I would bring her back and just to tell her I'm sorry and love on her and then send her back, right? If I could. But I was like, I'm not having a girl. I'm willing my body to only produce male children. I'm having 2 boys. Girl, I had them 2 boys. But
Yeah.
then years later, I met the man that she also predicted at 40 and got pregnant and had her at 41.
See?
And she's like the love of my life. So she was right about that. And she said, I see you teaching, you're feeding people the wrong food. I told her she was wilding. I said, no way. So when it came time for me to teach, and again, the board had to be swept clean for me to um, take that on. The board was swept clean. I was running a program that had a big budget. And when the budget ran out, Vivendi decided not to refund it. And I had been given that premonition when I was up teaching summer camp and I started crying. I was like, no, I don't want to. And I was hearing I had to go teach. I was like, no way. They said to me, we will put the words in your mouth that you need to sway these children. And when you go back, your program will be defunded. I was like, first of all, who is talking? Why am I hearing voices? Second of all, I would never teach. So I go back to the city, and the first thing that happens is they call me in and they tell me my program's defunded. So they swept the board clean. And then Spirit, that is. And then my assistant came in and she said, look, Tracy, this is where I think I'm going to go next. And it was New York City Teaching Fellows. I'm like, God, you got jokes. You're not funny. And so I decided to go in and do the same. And the first day that I spent with those kids was so amazing. I went home and cried and I was like, you know what, God, I don't know why I was not obedient, but I will be obedient from this point on. So that literally was for me in 2003 at 37, the turning point in my life. And I have been obedient ever since.
But you know what though? Even though we are not wanting to lean into obedience at times, I still believe that the steps that we have to go through to get to that obedience makes
Mhm.
sense. And at the end of the story, we truly end up doing what it is that we need to do, because it was
Mhm.
the same thing for me. My mom was a nurse, and my godmother was a nurse. And so everybody around me was nurses. And so they said, well, Tootie, you're going to be a nurse. That's what you need to do. So I was like, makes sense. I knew that I wanted to help people in some form or fashion, but I was like, okay, yeah, nursing, that makes sense. So I started off the path to nursing, going to school, got my CNA license, and worked at the hospital where my mom worked. And everybody's like, oh my God, you're going to be such a good nurse. You're going to be such a good nurse, blah, blah, blah. But like you said, I just wasn't feeling it, Tracy. You know what I mean? I just was not, I was like, this is not it. And so finally, after doing like you did, navigating through a few different careers and doing a few things, social work, human services and stuff, I was like, okay, that
Mhm.
makes sense. But it's so funny that I know that a lot of my spiritual friends that I've connected with, they've kind of had like the same journey that we've had, and either they end up teaching in some kind of way, or they end up in some type of human services. So I think that's like our thing. That's like our calling. That's like kind of what we're drawn to, because I think that it allows us to see that we have a little bit more, I don't want to say pull, but it's more, a little bit more pull for our spirit. You know what I mean? Our
Mhm.
spirit is a little bit more satisfied than if we were doing other things. So I think that that's cool.
I kind of feel like I was counseling a young sister today, and she was talking about the amount of spiritual attacks that
Hmm.
she experiences, but her role is that of servant. And I said, if you didn't go through all of this, how could you possibly understand
Yes.
what they're talking about? So
Yeah.
we have to experience it so that when they come to us and they say what they say,
Mhm.
we can empathize and give counsel. You
Mhm.
can't give counsel from a space of emptiness.
Yes.
You gotta actually know,
Gotta know,
yeah,
and
what
have
it
some
is.
feelings too.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So now let's talk a little bit about Southern Alchemy Wellness.
Yes.
Services or practices at Southern Alchemy Wellness do you feel people connect with the most, and why?
So the thing that I thought people were gonna connect with is the thing that they don't connect with. I see how spirit be doing you? Like you be like, prime boy, I'm gonna go and become an herbalist, and everybody's gonna come through, and I'm gonna support them in herbal wellness, and they're gonna come. Girl, I got down here and people was like, do you got a magic herb for this ailment? And I'm like, no, I don't, but talk to me about how you eat. And they're like, well, I fry my chicken, I eat my pork, I whatever, whatever. I'm like, well, some of that you would have to give up. And then they be mad and don't come back.
Mhm. Wonder why.
Because I think people think that herbalism is a thing that you can hear about it, and then you will take this herb and it will fix everything. And I like to tell people 7 herbs can do one thing and 1 herb can do 7 things. And that doesn't mean that it will do that thing in your body.
Exactly.
And no herbs are supposed to be taken in perpetuity, just like medicines can ruin you.
Yeah.
If you take them for too long, they really do call for a lifestyle overhaul and management. Like that's the thing, like the discipline. So that was the thing that I thought was going to take off, and it just didn't. However, 2 things did take off. One that I never planned on, and one that I just didn't even know I'd be doing. So I told you I'm a 30-year practitioner. And can I say a little bit my training? So I was initiated to Ifa, and I was initiated by a woman who had the same background as myself. She was a New Yorker of African American descent from Florida. So we got exactly the same roots. And she told me that she was going to initiate me in a non-traditional way because we had yet to discover as foundational Black Americans that we have our own folk ways. Like a lot of us knew, but we're not accessing it. And so when she said that, it didn't register at the time, but as I've continued to grow in my practice, hoodoo has called me because it's not a religion, it is a system. And it's a system that we have had here in this space, in these Americas, that incorporates a lot of the same things because we are diasporic people. Some of us just been here for generations and generations. Some of us did come on the slave ship, and some of us are so-called Indians. Like there's an amalgam of things that make up who we are. And so that is, I think, the spot of where I am. And it always amazes me that people come to me to learn. Like that, I was never selling that. And I just keep getting different cohorts of like women that come through to learn. So that shocks and amazes me.
Mm-hmm.
It shocks and amazes me that people keep coming for readings because I don't really advertise like that.
Mm-hmm.
It just, yeah, that is shocking to me. And then doula work came out of nowhere. My yogi was 7 months pregnant because when my mom transitioned, I had not been taking care of myself. And, you know, my journey of self-care has always been up and down because I feel that community servants sometimes overserve and forget themselves. Yeah. So I grew up dancing and being fit and all of that and being a gymnast, but I could totally like forget and get lost in the teaching or forget and get lost in the, you know, in the service, the community project. Like then that would just throw me all off and then I'll just work until I drop and don't eat right. And, you know, I never ate horribly, but, you know, eating late or not eating, you know, it would be a thing. And so when my mom transitioned, I chose when I moved here to take care of myself. And yoga was one of those ways that I would do it. And I had like an on and off love affair with yoga. I've always loved it, but I never could sustain it. And when I came here, I just had quiet time and I was like, I'm gonna devote my time to that. And so that's where I met her. And she was this white woman from Transylvania, no less. And one day she was looking at me and she said, I am here all by myself, my husband and myself, and I need to have a doula. If I was in my country, I would have one already. And he's always gone. He worked in other states. I am in such a dark place. Your spirit tells me you will be my doula. I'm like, what? I am not certified. I do not know. And she said, no. I feel this. You will be my doula. I was like, well, then I better get myself in a program. So I went to International Doula Institute and I did help her bring her baby before I finished. But because of her, and this is that way for everything I've done. If I don't want to do it and spirit wants me to do it, somebody will request.
Yep.
And then I'm like, well, then I guess I better,
yep.
You know.
We think so much alike, Tracy, because that's the exact same way for me. I remember I had a client and she was just wanting an intuitive reading. Okay, that's what I do, no problem. And after the reading, she said, you should be my mentor.
What? Yeah, what?
I was thinking, baby, I can barely mentor myself sometimes. And I said, okay. Well, then about 2 or 3 more clients said the same thing. And so like you said, okay, I feel the nudge. And so that's when I went ahead and got my life coach certification and did all of that. So when I tell you, I understand. The one thing that the audience who may not be as connected as we are to spirit has to understand is when spirit is on us to do something, we must do it. There's no way around it. We are going to have to do it, whether it's now or later. There's no question. We have to do it. So I understand that completely. And again, kudos to you for being obedient.
Thank you. You know what I have noticed though? When you don't do it at the time that they bring it and make it easy, they'll bring it around again, but they don't make it easy that next time.
Not at all.
Like I said, they'll clear the decks.
Yeah.
They will clear the decks.
Yes.
And you always have a choice. You can choose the way of pain. Like all of a sudden I heard like Lord of the Rings, right? Saruman, you have chosen the way of pain. But that's a real thing, right? Yes. When spirit is nudging you in the ways that it is nudging you, and it is making the way easy for you, and you look up your nose and go, no, that's not what I want to do. Spirit be like, all right, I'll catch you later.
Yeah. Look, I see you, player. I got you.
Yeah. And then when they come back, and can we talk a little bit about the struggle of building that muscle of obedience, and how when you have to do it just because it's not easy doesn't give you a pass?
Not at all. Not one bit. Not at all. And when you try to explain this to somebody else, they're like, well, why don't you just do something else? Like, why don't you just go left instead of right?
Yeah.
And they're like, yes, you can. No, when it's coming from spirit, you really, really can't. You can try, but you're going to end up right back where you were so that you can make that right turn that spirit told you to do. And it's not for the weak or the weary. And that's why I say for people now that are being spiritual or want to be spiritual because it's the end thing to be, or they're looking for something, honey, if you're not truly doing the work behind it, the shadow work and everything that comes with it, then you're not really, quote unquote, earning your stripes, so to speak. You got to go through the whole process. There's no shortcuts where this is concerned. Not at all.
No. And you know, how many people have I met that are like, I'm doing the shadow work, and you smiling?
No, you're not.
You might not be doing that shadow work. Shadow work is not fun at all.
No.
Nobody wants to do the shadow work. We just do it because my dad used to say, you might as well do it the first time, because when you have to do it, you'll just have to do it again.
Yep.
You'll just have to redo it.
Absolutely.
Like that to me was the impetus behind me being obedient, because my daddy told me, if you don't do it the first time right, you're gonna have to redo it, and it'll come back around again
and over until you get it.
And to be honest, and I just said this today to a client, we always think that we've mastered something. You've only mastered a thing at a level.
Yep.
Because if there's something that you've come to this life to learn, spirit gonna bring it back around at a different level. It's gonna look different, and say, let's see if you really did learn your lesson. And your muscles get tested, right? You're like, I thought I did this. You know?
Like, why does this feel familiar? Exactly. So it's so important for people to understand. And I know a lot of times people are like, she's always talking about obedience. But honestly, Tracy, it's so much a part of me now and what I do and just the way that I live. You know, I mean, there's nothing else for me to say but obedient. I know my clients are like, if you tell me one more time that I got to be obedient, if you tell me one more time to have patience, I promise you, if you do those two things, you're going to get a lot further along than not, you know? And I always preface it by saying, I'm not telling you something that I haven't done myself or that I haven't been through myself, because like you said, we can't be good teachers if we haven't had the experience ourselves, you know, and the knowledge.
Or sometimes you're still grappling with it.
Yes.
And as you teach. And one of the things that my students have paid me the compliment of saying is that you never sugarcoat things. Like if you are not good at a thing that you are asking us to do, you're going to be transparent and say, now, this is not something I'm good at, but
Yes.
you still need to do it. Like I always talk about journaling and how trash I am at
Yes. Yes.
journaling. But I have had the best results of change
Hmm.
when I'm on it. And I
Hmm.
used to assign master's level students to do it. I used to assign high school kids to do it. And they would go, I'm not good. And I'm like, me neither, baby. Well,
But
then
you,
why are you assigning it? We can't always be focused on whether or not something is right for us to do because we want to do it.
that's right. That's
it,
right.
it it's
Play
that thing. Yeah.
because all of my clients, one time or another, will tell you I'm all about writing because writing helps you to release. And
Hmm.
when they're having some type of blockage, the first thing I say is, have you been journaling? Well, no. Okay. Journal some and then we'll have another session because it's no use in us having a session
If
and you
you,
hadn't done what you were supposed to do.
yeah. It focuses your mind in a different way. One of the and going back to alchemy again and pulling things together that you would think don't go together, but
Mhm.
they really do. And for me, I told you I have an academic brain and I've got an esoteric brain, and they work well together. And I was talking today about how when you get into your magic, people always want to do spell work and like they're on witchy TikTok. But sometimes the magic is just in those small, insignificant things that you do every day as a habit that strengthen you. So the act of getting up early and having a routine is the magic.
That's right.
Because the magic will hit harder if you're stronger, and you can't get stronger without exercising the muscles. It's like knowing that you're Michael Jordan, but every day when you hit the court, you just three-peat free throw.
Yeah,
Does he have to? No, he's Michael Jordan. But the reason that he's Michael Jordan is because every day he does that. Or the ballerina who, you are an American ballet theater troupe. You tour all over the world, but every day you hit the bar and you plie.
that's right.
And that's that place where something like journaling, even if you feel like you're trash, like going back and starting again. I got so many journals that are half full that I started. I was like, I'm on a run. And I fall off, but I
Yes.
start again. And you know what always happens? Somebody else gonna give me a cute journal.
Hmm.
And I'm
Hmm.
like, oh, you gave me a cute journal. And they're like, do you journal? I'm like, I'm in a journal cul-de-sac, and you've given me this journal because Spirit is trying to make sure that
Yep.
I remember that I'm supposed to be about this life.
And that we are practicing what we preach.
Hmm. And then I thank them, and then I then I make sure to get in that journal until I don't. But I'm always honest about the fact that it's hard for me to sustain that practice. There's
Yeah.
lots of practices over time that I wasn't good at that now I am, because I just kept doing it.
Hmm.
And I hope one day journaling will be that thing.
It will be. It will be. Now, one thing, and we were talking about us practicing what we preach. What advice would you give to women who feel called to healing work but are afraid to start?
First thing I think anybody should do is pray about it very deeply. This is not an easy life.
No.
I think everybody wants, so social media has, unfortunately, it can be a tool for great good, but unfortunately, it has given people this belief that as long as you're posting awesome pictures and affirmations and saying that you're doing the work,
Hmm.
then you are fit to teach someone else. Everybody is not fit to teach.
Not at all.
Even teachers who are really great at their work have periods of time where they're not fit to teach. Like you got to step out and be like, wow, right now I'm just not in a, I'm, I can't do this right now because what I really need to do is maybe I got to focus on my kids.
Yeah.
Maybe I got to focus on myself. Maybe I got to focus on my spouse, like
Mhm.
whatever that is. So that would be the first thing. And I do want to go the next step and say, because a lot of people are not doing this these days, it's important to get a good teacher.
Yeah.
And even if you've been teaching for a lot of years, like I have somebody that I go to when I'm like, am I in the right space? Am I, I need to get perspective. We have to always. Psychologists have times when they have to go in and get therapy.
That's right. And it's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay. So, how can listeners connect with Southern Alchemy Wellness to begin their own healing journey?
So I have tailored my website more toward doula work because there are people who like that's really what they go for.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be a little confusing to be talking about readings. I mean, there's a place where like if you discover it, you discover it. But Southern Alchemy Wellness LLC.com is my website. My email address is southernalchemywellness at gmail.com. My Instagram is at Southern Alchemy Wellness. And my Facebook is Southern Alchemy Wellness.
Thank you. So, now a final question that I have for you. When you think about legacy, what do you hope people feel when they experience your work?
Oh, I've been blessed, Myra. Oh, sis. I have taught again in my master's class and in my spiritual classes. People who are now 36 and 37 years old, but I
Mhm.
taught you at 13 or 14 in high school.
Wow.
That's legacy. There are people who every now and then say hi and hit me up on Facebook. I had you when maybe you didn't like school or were in special ed as a teenager. You got your PhD now.
Mm.
I have the beautiful distinction of having had somebody who didn't think that they could find love in their life, and there were deep wounds. They're the reason that I'm teaching spirit, by the way. They asked me at a conference that I was speaking at, not about this, if I taught, and I officiated their wedding.
Wow.
So that's what it looks like for me. But the other piece is I have very magical children, and I am beyond blessed. My oldest is a shaman and works with crystal and Reiki. My second son is a very gifted channeler, seer, and astrologist. And my daughter is doing her dance thing, but I told you before we started recording a venture that we started when she was quite young. I named it after her, called Jewel's Soapbox. And she was a soap fairy because my oldest is an artist. And so he drew a very lifelike picture of her floating on fairy wings.
Oh,
And she just told me that she's going to revive that.
and I think that that's beautiful. And I think also, too, that that's a testament to you. And again, I know people are here. She goes with that word again, being obedient. Also,
Mhm.
too, I think that it shows how you've changed the narrative of mother-daughter relationships. Because let's be honest, Tracy, mother-daughter relationships are hard.
They are. That's why I didn't want a daughter.
Yes, they
And
are so
my mother
hard.
told me, my mother said to me, you do want one. She said, daughters are, and she used your legacy word, and she said, it's the joy of my life. And I was like, as much as we fought, she feels that way about me.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I do feel that way about my daughter.
Mhm. So I appreciate you. I can't wait to have you back on again so that we can dive a little bit deeper into some good old Southern alchemy and hoodoo.
We're going to talk about it, girl.
I'm excited about that. But I just appreciate you dropping your knowledge. And also, too, I would like for us to do or share some space for us to talk more about herbal, just everything, because I just feel like that you have so much knowledge, and it's so many people out there that want to know, that maybe are Bible toting Christians, or maybe, they don't know quite where to start or who to reach out to or how all of this works, because they've been told that they're going to go to hell if they do this or if they believe that, or whatever the case may be. So I think that it's important for women like us to have these open conversations so that we can help others find their way in whatever way that is.
Most definitely. Those who do go to my website will see that I also do teach herbal classes online. I also am a doula mentor. I teach doula classes online. I've had students in Ireland, students in other states like San Francisco and Louisiana. And so, come study with me. There are 3 different facets that they can avail themselves to. And I'm fun online.
Yes. And she's a fun person, period. We get on the phone and we can talk for hours. And also, guys, if you have any questions or whatever, you can always feel free to reach out to me and I can get you guys connected as well. So thank you so much, sister. I appreciate you more than words can say.
I appreciate you, sis. This was a blast. And I will tell you, I'm tired from a long day. This was like an uplift.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that more than words can say. So, guys, as we start to close today's conversation, I hope you feel grounded, seen, and reminded that healing is not linear, not at all. Be obedient, and it's not meant to be rushed. Thank you, Tracy, for sharing your heart, your wisdom, and your work with us. And to everyone listening, may you give yourself permission to rest, to feel, and to choose your own healing one moment at a time. Until next time, this has been Moments with Myra. Have a good evening.
Ashe.
Gratitude, I've woken up to see another day. It's time to stretch, then meditate. 5 in the morning and young still asleep. Got my workout and I'm brushing my teeth. It's time to study, it's turning 6. The young in their room still sleeping like bricks. Pray to my spirit God need an assist. Spirit God told me I'm being too strict. Yelling and screaming too much. Each moment seems like a fuss. Adrenals out of sequence, frequency frequently. So I've been seeking the secrets of us. Spirit God told me I stay on the move and don't make enough room for some breathing and touch. But we can adjust. Spirit God told me to be sure I'm sleeping by dusk and trust, cause you gotta love yourself. You gotta love yourself. You gotta love yourself. No one else can do it for you, king. You gotta love yourself. You gotta love yourself. You gotta love yourself. No one else can do it for you, queen. You gotta love yourself. You gotta love yourself. You gotta love yourself. No one else can do it for you, king. You gotta love yourself. You gotta love yourself. You gotta love yourself. You need some time to do yoga. Tell other priorities to move over. Know who you are when you sober. Put down the liquor, put down the doja just for a day. If it's too hard, you're nowhere close to yourself, you're too far. Some of us stay on the bottom like tar. Some of us rise up as high as a star. Some of us stay in a melancholy state of mind, looking up and don't try at the bar. Which one of you? 1, 2, or 3? You and yourself need to come to agree. Only opinion that matters is your inner chatter, and that's how it has to just be. Well, yours and the Lord's, of course, but God is what's happening above. Down here, you gotta love yourself. You gotta love yourself. You gotta love yourself. No one else can do it for you, king. You gotta love yourself. You gotta love yourself. You gotta love yourself. No one else can do it for you, queen. You gotta love yourself. You gotta love yourself. You gotta love yourself. No one else can do it for you, king. You gotta love yourself. You gotta love yourself. You gotta love yourself. No one one else can do it for you. What's your perception when you look in the mirror and see your reflection? Do you see royalty and perfection? Do you feel loyalty and connection? Do you feel like you're favored with blessings? You're greater than, do you feel less than? What's your biggest fears? What brings you to tears? Your peers, it appears no affection. Or do you feel stressed from the way people looked as you left cause you came with aggression? Or is it the fame and protection you seek that depletes you, defeats you, depression? This song is a pill that I'm giving that's too hard to swallow from deep indigestion. But I hope it leaves an impression and keeps you progressing. The message is you gotta love. You gotta love. No one else can do it for you, king. You gotta love. You gotta love. No one else can do it for you, queen. You gotta love. No one else can do it for you, king. You gotta love. You gotta love. No one else can do it for you, queen.